Welcome back, everybody, to this, your favorite comedy show on the internet, where we look at the slop of Slop World. I like to think that on January 20th, um, 2025, we transitioned from Clown World into Slop World because let's be honest, it's kind of hard to laugh these days. But we're here to just bring up all the nonsense that's you could at least try. Um, with me tonight, I am not me, not you, of course. With me tonight is Mr. Pete Quinones. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
And Mr. Sandbatch, back in action. How are you?
Back in action. I feel like an action, like that's what I feel like a bullpen pitcher. I have a middle relief pitcher for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays in like 1998 when they won 60 games a year.
Hell yeah, man. We got that on
the Wade Boggs of the Pony Express, or whatever. We can here throw some knuckleballs.
It's going to be a refrain tonight. All right, let's hit those shills, shall we? Alp, link in the description. Get your nicotine fix. This, it's one of these things where, yeah, it's made in India, but well,
I was like, literally, I had a nicotine lozenge. The story to go with that, and I was like, no, that's not good press. And then you were like, yeah, sure, they're made in India. So I'm like, yeah, I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he bummed a cigarette from me, and I was like, he was like, yeah, he's like, I'm on these nicotine lozenges, but he's like, but they make my gums bleed.
I mean, good for him for sticking through it.
Yeah.
Most people just
tell you about the I tell you, I was at a Christmas party and someone mentioned Alp, and this guy just starts like, no, man, you can't buy Alp. It's all dirty. It's disgusting. It'll ruin your mouth and everything like that. And then later I found out he was a Jew and just hated Tucker Carlson.
Okay. Yeah. This makes more sense. I mean, I want to support Tucker Carlson personally, and I do so by buying his product. The pouches are all white, which I imagine must be one of the hardest things to get out of India. Something that actually like maintains its color without just turning brown. So I have to give it to Alp for that. So use the link in the description. Help out your friends.
Wait, on the subject of India, did you see that? Did you see the clip of that dude that was shitting on the side of the road, and he like tripped and fell under an 18-wheeler and died?
Yeah. What would they say? They're calling it the most Indian death of all time.
No, if he would have been banging a friggin' lizard at the same time, that had been the most Indian death of all time.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. We so the crown is still there for anybody in India who might be listening to this. You can still get the most Indian death of all time. All right, Fox and Sons Coffee. Link in the description. Use promo code OGC to get a certain percentage off. It's worth it. It's amazing coffee. Even coffee snobs will not turn their nose up at the wonderful coffee from Fox and Sons. So do that for your caffeine fix. Axios Fitness and Coaching. Got a JG putting together personalized programs to make sure you are healthy and not fat, which is one of the tenets of be attractive and don't be unattractive. So just get on that. It's worth your time. MS Vendrello in the links. It's also a part of being your best you, man. Just buy a suit. You look good. Buy it in buy American. Do the whole thing. And speaking of American, Tall Men Books, George Bagby putting out all of the things that we don't want to forget. So he's republishing a lot of the 19th and very early 20th century works that have fallen out of circulation. And he's a good friend of the club. So please check him out.
Well, as long as we're shilling books, because this is a big day for me. It's not a big day for me, actually, but the first 2 months of royalties come in at once. So if you all can fucking go buy my book, if you're gonna do it today instead of tomorrow. So that
wait, you got your first royalty check cut today?
No, it's 2 months from it's not 2 months. It's like if it's 2 months after the end of the month that you publish. Okay, so I published the book on March 3rd. And so March 3rd to April 3rd, and then April 3rd to May 3rd, and then they're only gonna go April 30th. They're only gonna this is the last day for my first check. So you're gonna buy my book.
Right. Okay. I was gonna say, I'm surprised you're sober, but if you didn't get paid yet, there's still time.
I don't drink. I tried drinking like 3 days ago. I bought a bottle of wine and I was fine. And then I woke up the next morning and I had a headache and I was fucking mad. So I'm like, I'm not doing that again for a while.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes. Well, what are we looking at? We're looking at our first story. Our first story of the night is
no. The most important thing that happened yesterday is David Allan Coe died.
Yes, of course.
The great avant-garde country singer, who's if you're only familiar with his work, if you're only familiar with the greatest country western song ever, you should definitely go check out his much more underground work. The records that include lots of racisms and a spoken 20-minute monologue about being a drug-addicted gay prostitute in the 1970s. It's all wonderful work.
Wait, anyway. So is he secretly Johnny Rebel?
No, but I mean, it's Johnny dude. Actually, Johnny Rebel.
Johnny Rebel's from Louisiana.
Yeah, he's from the great agropolis of Crowley, Louisiana, and there was the record label. I mean, David Allan Coe he came after Johnny Rebel, actually. Like that, Johnny Rebel was in the early 60s. And that dude, I mean, that is a real dude. And I actually think he might even still be alive. But David Allan Coe,
he passed away.
Yeah. David Allan Coe came after him. But it's like if Johnny Cash listened to Johnny Rebel is what David Allan Coe is,
Okay, all right. Well, so I said when the news broke that he died, I actually thought that David Allan Coe was CO period, and that it was just a name for like a band that somebody made up. So
I mean, some of his work is some of the work that I'm talking. It's like you got to go find it somewhere, But it is every bit as racy as that. But he is, of course, he's one of the genuinely great country music singers, and we're sad to see him go. It's been a rough year for American artists. All those old boomers are dying, and there's nothing to replace them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give some country music hipsters a heart attack and say that I'm gonna have to check out his stuff now that he's dead. I'll be the last white man crossing the finish line on David Allan Coe, I guess.
The Yankees moment in Pony Express.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just living it, man.
David Allan Coe, Ohio's favorite son.
Yeah, that's a thing. I don't think of country music when I think of Ohio. I think of I think of South Point, the heroin capital of the United States, but that's for other reasons.
Dude, I was talking to the Ohio chapter guys, and they made a claim with me that was so over the top and outside of anything that I had ever heard before. I did the Tucker staring face at him through the screen. But he told me that rock and roll was invented in Ohio, and I'm going to give you something secret about me. My babysitter growing up, sometimes Sam Phillips, who ran Sun Studios in Memphis, was my babysitter growing up. And I don't want to get into how that happened, but suffice to say, I have always been inundated in the idea that rock and roll was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and I went and looked this up, and holy effing shit. rock and roll, the phrase rock and roll was coined 6 years earlier than I thought. And in fact, in Ohio. So Ohio used to do things beyond the reckoning of beyond what we think they're capable of now.
Wait. Where's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
It's in exactly. It's in Ohio, which is like
it's in Cleveland.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know anything else.
It never made sense to me until now, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Well, better known for that than the invention of bebop jazz. But you know, so this has to be, I guess, the black mark on this week in slop is David Allan Coe's death, because surprisingly, we have well, not a 100% win lineup, but it's pretty close. So our first win of the week is brought to us by the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, who in the Louisiana v. Calais, how do they pronounce that in Louisiana? Calais, they do? All right. Louisiana v. Calais struck down, well, they didn't strike down the Voting Rights Act, but they decided to narrow its scope a little bit and determined that there were some of the Voting Rights Act black districts were actually unconstitutional.
Well, you know, this is kind of a tangled story. And the reason it's interesting, you know, one of the first articles I wrote a long time ago, one of the first articles Baby Sandbatch ever wrote that really went viral, you would say, like the guys at the Western Rifle Shooters Association picked it up, and it was back in 2018, 2019 when Virginia was going through their redistricting. And Virginia, they were gridlocked over how to go about doing their state legislative redistricting is what it was. And they brought in an academic, because this is what I mean, it was, the fight had gotten bad enough that, you know, federal courts had stepped in and they appointed an arbitrator, and the arbitrator brought this Bernard Grossman in from Squint's UC Davis to consult on redistricting. And, you know, that raised my hackles for all the predictable reasons. And I really got into this redistricting shit. And it turns out Herr Grossman had written a number of articles for the North Carolina Law Review stating, you know, a lot of what were the legal difficulties with increasing minority representation in congressional districts. And he is a guy who he's been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars since the 70s to essentially sue primarily Southern governments over all of the issues that, you know, that arise from this sort of thing. And even he, at the time, he acknowledged that it's very difficult to get around the constitutional requirements about racial discrimination because in the South, and this is the reason the South is such a laboratory for this, because it's essentially two races and there's a lot of both of us. And they're really pretty much 100% along, you know, racial lines and political lines are virtually identical with one another. So just talking about it was very difficult actually to gerrymander black districts back into, or gerrymander, yeah, because his definition of what increasing equity in voter participation is to create districts where the largest number of minorities have the possibility to be elected. And courts and, you know, state legislatures have really rubber stamped that definition for quite some time. And when the difficulty that when doing it in the South is that anytime you attempt to gerrymander political parties, you're also essentially gerrymandering racial lines. And so this has been one of these things that which creates these, like, look at Louisiana. Louisiana is the worst. Like, we have the most obscene one. And it's a part of it's and part of that is because of the geography. I mean, all of the southern states here, you can see. I don't know if you could follow it with me. The North Carolina Blue District, that's up there. That's the Great Dismal Swamps. There's a lot of cotton planters there. In the South Carolina, the Blue District is. I lived in it. I think that's Jim Clay. I think it's Jim Clay. No, Jim Clyburn retired. He went into the Biden administration. But that is the, that's the. It's not quite the Low Country. It covers some of the Low Country, but that is all. It's a very heavily Democratic districts where the blacks, where the plantations were. And if you look in South Georgia, it's where the plantations were. And if you look in Alabama, that is of course the infamous Black Belt that runs across Alabama's belly, and then you have Memphis, the Mississippi Delta. Louisiana's though looks retarded. It looks the most retarded, and it's the most obscene of all of the frankly party line gerrymandered districts. And the reason for this is because the Democrat population, i.e. the black population, is sorted more or less along the lines of the Red and Mississippi rivers, because that's where all the plantations were. So our gerrymandering looks worse than everyone else's, and in fact, it probably is. But the way this sort of shook out is that as of the 2020 census, some black interest groups in Louisiana determined that, we have 6 members of the House of Representatives, and we're about 30% black, so they needed 2 districts, and that kicked off a legal slinky that somehow landed with the original. I believe the way this landed is the original prosecutor, the original plaintiffs, and were actually ended up trying to scuttle their own case because the whiz-bangs in the Louisiana state government realized this was their chance to, as you said, gut the civil right, gut the Voting Rights Act, more or less, because the grounds that the argument was eventually made on was that we have 6 districts and 30% of the state, so we get 2 of the districts. Okay, this is how thoroughly Democrat and black have been entwined at the hip in Louisiana for so long. They couldn't even make a straight party claim. They just outright suggested we need 2 black districts. Okay. And the Louisiana Attorney General said that's unconstitutional. And so now here we are with the Voting Rights Act overturned. That's just the sort of play-by-play of what happened. Just to make sure everybody's on the same page, because I've seen so many people trying to figure out exactly what happened, and nobody really seemed to know. So that's just the what has actually gone down. But
I mean, God bless our brothers in Louisiana who were paying attention and noticed that this was a golden opportunity.
You know what's wild? You know what it was? It was a woman. Didn't see that coming.
I mean, that is actually quite surprising. But I suppose, right wingers in blue areas tend to be much more radical than right wingers in red areas, because they have to live with the consequences of blue governance. And I imagine it's pretty similar when it comes to living around diversity and the decisions that people of diverse backgrounds tend to make in governance.
I think as somebody who lives in one of these states right here, I think a lot of what people see is they see the map on the left as just, hey, we're keeping whitey down. And the map on the right is there may be some consequences for your actions if you don't straighten the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean the map on the right is a it says it's a plausible scenario, but this requires various groups in these states to bring suit or to actively redistrict. And I know that some of the Democrats were pulling their hair out because there were something like, I believe it was 200 or 2,000. That might be a bit much. There were 200 lawsuits related to the Voting Rights Act, that were ready to go, pending this decision. And
I mean, this is one of the things. There's like a springboard, because I mean, the reason we went ahead on it is because there was a smaller case in Alabama, but I mean, I mean, the take home is, you know what the real take home is? Do you know how happy I am right now? How absolutely thrilled I am. So 161 years ago, South Carolina legally withdrew itself from the Union of the States and was invaded by an army raised by the GOP. And yesterday, the Supreme Court just handed the GOP permanently to the states that it invaded in 1861. This is, in a very real way, the South winning the Civil War.
Yeah, when God closes a door, he opens a window, right?
Exactly right. But the take home is like yesterday, Mississippi, Tennessee. I think Governor Ivey in Alabama she's too old and senile to realize what's happening, and she said I don't know that they're going to do redistricting, but Louisiana has to, because we don't have a congressional district now. Mississippi called an emergency session to do their redistricting. Tennessee did. North Carolina, I think they've already done theirs, and theirs is about as bad. They probably can't do any more than they already have. And then South Carolina can get rid of their blue district too, and so we're going to see if they do. And that it's. I mean, there's going to be some knock-on consequences here. Like this is like the Southern strategy version of like break glass, in a case of emergency, because this is only really good for maybe 2 cycles. Because what you're essentially doing is, you ever read Ernst Jünger? My favorite book Ernst Jünger wrote is The Forest Passage, and he always talks about the way one party, he talks about the way authoritarian parties work. And for better or worse, the GOP is more or less an authoritarian power in the southern states, but it tolerates the existence of some of these little blue districts. Like this is, if you look at that map, it's already overwhelmingly red, and we just, tolerate some of these blue districts to keep everybody, as sort of the ability for for outlets for pressure to exist. And we're essentially taking those away. And the Black population is angry. They're angry. What that translates into is hard to tell. But it's also important to remember the Black vote operates via machine. Okay. There's relatively little actual individual decision making in the Black vote. And this is not no shade on them or anything. It's just the way they're structured.
Well, I mean, what is the saying? Blacks don't vote, their district captains do.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk, Obama was a community organizer. All of the civil rights organizers that you see, that they're all reverends. It's like, what are they the reverend of? And Black Christianity in the South is largely political. And what they do is they just go to church and they all go vote together. And on the bus to the ballot station, they fill out their ballots and then they go in and drop them off. It's a machine delivered vote. And so the only real Black decision makers that are, they're looking at the same board we are, and they're seeing their incentive to deal with the Democrat Party evaporate in front of them. It's pretty clear that, the Black population's holding steady right around 12-13%, where it always has been. They have been in the past a powerful Democratic voting bloc, specifically because of how early the Southern primaries are. There's a lot of Southern states in the Super Tuesday primary. So the Democrats, the Democrat insider, the Democrat establishment has used the Black vote as a bulwark against radicals for quite some time, but that's starting to fail. And also, the total share of the Black vote in the Democrat Party is starting to fail. So really, there's a very real sense in which, all of us that's on this call, we've lived through what was possibly the peak of Black political power in the United States because of the kingmaker role.
God's ears, my friend.
Yeah, but because of the kingmaker role, I mean, arguably what's coming next is like not better, because the reason they're being displaced is because the Latin American vote is becoming so much more important, you know? So, but, you know, if we get, you know, you get maybe 2 cycles out of this before those Black community organizers realize that their best chance at getting what they want is going to start be moving into the Republican Party. So this, you know, it's a break. It really is. It's what it is. It's a break glass in case of emergency. And I think the GOP has to do it right here, right now, for the next 2 elections. But their alpha out of this is going to start decreasing rapidly, because what they're, you know, it's when they've just swallowed they're going to end up swallowing a very large, traditionally almost totally opposed demographic, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Well, so I know that this is kind of looking into a crystal ball, but I'm not convinced that Blacks moving to the Republican Party is really going to mean anything.
I know it will.
Well,
Like
because
it would be as a part of the GOP Samson option.
Yeah, I could see that, but when I'm thinking 2 cycles from now, all the boomers will be gone, and such that the GOP will exist. It's either going to be completely taken over by Indians and Hispanics, or if it does remain the white man's party, which is what it is now, all the white men in it are going to be they're going to understand the racial questions, and they're not going to want to give any sort of you know, have any power in the hands of a race that's, you know, a full standard deviation on average less intelligent than they are, which is no longer one of these things that's only hiding in niche information spaces online. So I don't know if it'll shake out exactly like that, or if it's just going to be it's going to shift from a white ethnic party to a brown you know, coalition party, the same way that the Democrats are.
I mean, we already have the problem here in Alabama of all of the state representatives that are running on the very important and very real issue of they're not going to allow Sharia law to come into Alabama.
What is the case for Sharia law in Alabama? Where is it? Where did they come from? I don't spend a lot of time there.
Well, there is a town called Arab, Alabama, so I guess it'll be there.
So they're not running on keeping Muslims, Middle Easterners, and North Africans out of Alabama. They're running on keeping Sharia law out of Alabama.
That's correct. Yes. There's not a they're you know, as I say often, we could get rid of the biggest problem that we have in this country that we've had since about 1880, and people would still be spiritually, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this is a classic fight the symptom, not the virus. It's one of these things where you hope that the generational turnover happens at such a breakneck speed that it kind of shatters the system, because, you know, we get this little win here, but it's you know, Sandy, you're saying we get maybe 2 cycles out of it. Meanwhile, the whole country is being flooded with the third world, and while that's at a trickle right now, I'm not so hopeful that it's going to last that long.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear to me that this election is in fact going to be the most important. It's probably going to be the most important presidential election or election cycle since 1896. And the thing that's real interesting about this with respect to 1896 is that we know how important it's going to be ahead of time, which is not something that anybody knew. In 1896, the election hinged mostly on the question of whether or not we should issue silver coinage in addition to gold coinage, and the elections that occurred primarily on that issue, on a domestic agenda, ended up being the Congress that started the Spanish American War and inaugurated American Empire. We're probably this is a rare instance. This really is going to be an all hands on deck election, and not 2026. I'm not even really concerned about 2026 anymore, but 2028 is going to be probably permanently decide the fate of the United States. It's hard to see. It's hard to see whatever happens in 2028 not being politically decisive for the rest of the century.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. 2026 is already baked in. I think that only the most hopeful and the most schizophrenic believe that it's going to be anything other than a Dem win across the board. But whatever. That's not really important to us anyway. Our mission in the Old Glory Club doesn't change regardless of who's in power. The only thing that changes is how fast things are going to get worse. So,
yeah.
Well, speaking of foreign influence, the King of England, what the hell is his name? Charles?
Charlie.
Yeah. Chucky.
King Charles.
King. He visited the United States, which apparently some people care about. I am not one of those people. And Trump decided to greet him with Trump, for all his faults, he still got it. This is a very funny clip.
It won't take long to get that right.
Obviously, this can be construed as just a reminder of our heritage as Brits. We've got the red coats there and the Continentals, and it's. But I like to think that it's kind of rubbing the nose rubbing his nose in it that we broke away from them 250 years ago. But really, this is for all its pageantry. There was a funny moment where Trump decided to show a dead wasp to the King of England, which I'm sure that there are some schizo brains out there saying that this was staged, and it was Trump saying that the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, the last bastion of British influence over the United States, is dead. But
feel seen.
Exactly. Maybe that's
a little schizo, but there's a sense in which part of me, as like sort of a dark wasp myself, like a wasp against the wasps, where I'm like, yeah, well, goodbye and good luck. Thanks for all of that, because it is true. For whatever the merits of the wasps, they were uniquely beholden to getting us in England's problems. But that speech was embarrassing, and I think as somebody who's personally, I kind of like Charlie.
Or you just like him because he's actually read Guinan.
Well, I like him. Yeah, I like him because he's read Rene Guinan. I like him because he married the woman he loves. And I like also that his main interest, he's kind of a weird dude. His main interest is gardening and architecture, so and he actually has, whenever he actually bothers to do anything, he's got he's interested in urbanism and everything like that. He'd be a great guy to get supper with, but he comes over here and he starts off okay. It's this appeal to this. We get this this appeal to this special relationship, so on and so forth. But then he veers directly into the shit, right? And he's talking about interfaith dialogue and so on and so forth. And what ends up happening, the Republicans were kind of cheering him a little bit in the beginning, and they remained somewhat polite through the entire speech, but At the end of the day, what we just kind of saw is that the King of England just came to the United States and read a canned speech agreeing with the opposite, the opposition party in the Senate. Like, this a little bit emasculating. Maybe he shouldn't be invited back.
Yeah, I'd be okay with him not being invited back, especially after he drops this silly shit on the floor of Congress.
The aftermath of 9/11, when NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time, and the United Nations Security Council was united in the face of terror, we answered the call together, as our people have done so for more than a century, shoulder to shoulder, through 2 world wars, the Cold War, Afghanistan, and moments that have defined our shared security. Today, Mr. Speaker, that same unyielding resolve is needed for the defense of Ukraine and her most courageous people.
Oh, wow. You'd think it was Bibi Netanyahu up there, how fast they got out of their chairs to clap.
I like how nobody cares about Ukraine anymore. It's just like this like doddering old idiot up there. Like,
what is a massive fucking faggot?
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, this guy, right? Like, he's
this guy.
He's overseeing, like, he's just sitting there watching as his own people are being slow rolled a genocide in the country he's supposed to be the sovereign of, and meanwhile looking over at Ukraine, salivating at the fact that Ukraine has the Ukrainians have essentially been genocided, and now he wants to ask America to send all of her white boys to fight more white boys, well, Slavs, in Russia. And it's just like, Charlie, I know that you really like Guinan, and maybe you became a Sufi out of admiration, but can you just put it away for a little bit? Can you at least pretend that you give a shit about Christendom just for a little bit? You're supposed to be the head of the Church of England.
He actually is a Christian, but
well, I mean, he says that, but that's because
he writes about it and everything. He writes about it personally, but it's just like the same problem with every Christian leader in the world, where they like, and especially, he's got the Anglo thing. I mean, of course, he's the no shit King of England. He's got that Anglo thing where it's like, well, my personal faith is a matter of me, but everyone else should be made to feel included. It's like, God, dude. Oh no, not this time. This is like Nick Land talks about this all the time. That's the pathological altruism. Like, he is a Christian. He's and I even believe he's the head of my church. But like say something. Come on, man. Do king things.
Yeah, I mean the coronation. I won't even call it pomp and pageantry. There was something deeply beautiful about seeing the old ways reenacted in such a faithful, pending the shuck and jive. They had some very beautiful imagery and symbology going on during the coronation, but it just doesn't really seem like there's any spiritual penetration going on with any of our leaders, be they divinely anointed like the King of England, or elected by the slobbering masses like the traitors in Congress. So this is just kind of him coming here doesn't really. It's just what I see is a representative of the City of London, and trying to get America to give more money to an international Jewry war in the Near East. And it's just sad to see that the supreme monarch of the once great British Empire being reduced to this.
The once great British Empire. It happened so fast too. I feel bad about talking shit about him, but really, then I also don't, because it's like this Ukraine thing. That's your mess, buddy. We're it's all like it's also sort of interesting to note how the state of Europe, where like the King of England is in the United States, like begging for daddy Warbucks, and we're just like, maybe. Nobody cares. It's like the same thing with that assassination attempt. It's like, wow, like nobody even looked up from their cell phones this third assassination attempt. There are like so many atrocities that are just being like patently normalized, when the Twitter scroll, the scroll is literally more engulfing to contemporary audiences than a real life, no shit, 5-year genocidal war in Europe itself and several presidential assassination attempts. Like, boomers saw JFK get his head blown off on television, and they never recovered. Never. That was like 60 years ago. And like we're just like, oh look, somebody shot at the president again today. Like nobody even blinks. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean that's actually an interesting point. I think that if we did see Trump get whacked on live television, that there's been this this comic going around for a while now where like aliens land and they get out and they're talking to a guy who's like the Doomer Wojak. And they're like, "Are you not astounded?" And he's like, "Man, I got a lot going on right now."
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that's how most people are. I mean, in order to actually care about the governance, the governing structure, the governors of the society you live in, you have to have some kind of buy-in. And, from the 1960s onward, it seemed to be the raison d'etre of the powers that be to remove the buy-in from the American people, and I think they've effectively done that. No one gives a shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like okay, yeah, you got like polymarket betting on whether the president gets his head blown off on television that's the extent of the buy-in at this point.
Yeah, people are seeing it as a way to enrich themselves.
My buddy Dark Enlightenment and I talk about this all the time because we've been in the podcast game for a long time, and it's like the stuff that we used to talk about 10 years ago, it all came true, and everything is still getting much worse. And like if you stop and take the temperature, take the temperature of where the fuck we're at, that is bleak. Like everything is in a really bleak state right now.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse. I don't expect to be able to hand a better world over to my children when they come of age, and I don't really at this point expect that our grandchildren will be experiencing a better world than we grew up in either.
Yeah, this is going to take a while to fix.
Yeah, which is why
we can talk about black pills and white pills and black pills and white pills. But that's like one of those moments where it's like you focus in on the one piece moves in a very vast card game. It's like, you flip a stone over? Oh, is it black or white? Then you flick another stone over. It's like, oh, is it black or white? Nobody's really aggregating all the stones, and they're almost all black. Like we could talk about like minor wins, like civil rights act gets overturned, but to what end?
Yeah, the demographic changes in this country. I mean, at best, I think we're like 46% white at this point, so it's going to be an uphill battle, boys. But the silver lining here,
historically, we have an example of one country that was minority white, and they ran shit, hard. So don't ever black pill over being in the minority. Our problem is that we have diaspora groups that basically have created laws to stop us from basically doing what needs to be done. And yeah, that's why the whole thing that I don't know if it was you, not me, not you, who pointed out yesterday that Orrin had was talking about the divisions in the country, and like the most important divisions are the fact that the evangelicals have sided with the Jews, and it seems like the WASPs and the Catholics have teamed up to go up against them. So it's a matter of.
That wasn't me, but I wish I'd made that observation. That's a damn good observation.
Yeah, it's very interesting that has happened, and Orrin, I think Orrin nailed it in his episode on diaspora groups yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, worth checking out. Orrin, a great friend of the club, and the Old Glory Club came together in 2022, right? This was during the what looked like the worst years of the Biden administration, and we saw this coming a long ways off. We hope that maybe Trump might be able to spare us if he was willing to govern like a dictator, and he obviously is not. So, we're here, and we're going to become more. This thing is going to be more and more important as we descend into the end state of globalist politics.
Man, I like how I didn't realize it's been 4 years, but like the drug high of like rapid growth and that sort of thing is great. I mean, it starts to wear off. You have to look at the reality that this is an organization that's actually probably going to be not just fun, but structurally important. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's really fun to drive fast on the interstate, but that car's also got to get your groceries home.
So bringing it back, I mean, we're still in America, but we're going to get away from the foreign influence, unless you count China, to talk about California's hilarious self-own, and what should be a wake-up call to all Democrats, if any of them paid attention or cared about anything other than the destruction of the United States. They passed a billionaire's tax, allegedly a one-time billionaire's tax that they can just come back and use again and again as often as they'd like, and actually apply that to non-billionaires as well. If the producer has the particular part of the code here. So I'll just read this out for our listeners. The legislature may amend the 2026 Billionaire Tax Act by statute passed in each house of the legislature by roll call vote, entered in the journal. 2/3 of the membership. I can't read that. Whatever. If the statute is consistent with and furthers the purposes of the 2026 Billionaire Act. This is all a way of saying that they can levy this tax against whomever they choose at any point, as long as they get the required votes in their own legislature, which, since they are a monolith, they will be able to do exactly that.
I mean, I got to say fair. It's fair. There's nothing not fair about it. If you want to live in California, that's the hazard.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the more important part of this is I'm sorry, this hasn't passed yet. This is going to be up for vote in November. I would be very surprised if something called the billionaire's tax doesn't pass among the low info voter that is the American public.
Well, I mean,
in this
it's called if it's defeated, it's going to be defeated by Sam Altman and Elon Musk. Like it's going to be like a coalition of gay tech bros is going to libertarian their way out of this. It's the only thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where Virginia now is a blueprint for how the Democrats are going to run nationally. They're going to just lie. I mean, all of our politicians lie to us about what they're going to do when they take power. This has been a joke since the day I was born and long before, but this is just a blueprint for the way that the Democrats will run nationally. They will continue to try and tax everybody to death. And, Tucker Carlson, in his most recent monologue, brought up a good point. If there are so many illegals here that don't have to follow the law, and if there are so many congressmen and other people that don't have to follow the law, the question then becomes, why are any of us paying taxes?
Why do I have to follow the law? Can you
Yeah,
answer that?
why? Yeah, if our leaders don't follow the law, and if the people who break their way into the country and, cause crime and soak up the public purse, if they don't have to follow the law, why do we have to follow the law?
As somebody who knows a lot of rich people, but am not myself rich, I can tell you for one thing, anybody who's still following the rules is a sucker. You might be virtuous, but you're a sucker. Because nobody else is following the rules. There's like no one.
Yeah, this is why, and this is why I encourage all of my veteran friends to get on 100% disability, because there are so many people who, when they say they served, meaning they sat in an office their entire career, their entire contract, are on 100% disability. We are in the looting the treasury phase, and if you're not participating in that when you have an opportunity, you're just getting taken.
Well, it's still that a lot of that boomer brain is still there of, I heard, I think we all like Jared Taylor, but I heard him the other day poo-pooing the whole SPLC thing because really they didn't do anything wrong. And, you can't yeah, calm down.
Sandbatch just died on the air, by the way. That's it.
I know. I was Mr. Fieldhouse and I have been having many discussions about this. It's just that. Oh well, we have to be better than them. Oh, okay, so we are better than them. I mean, existentially, from a human standpoint, from a metaphysical standpoint, we're better than them.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also the question: who are you trying to convince that you're better than them? It's like, it's like you talked your way back into, if you kill your enemies, then you lose. You're like you're doing an Obama.
Yeah, I mean these are the same. These are the same people who I love, my favorite ones are the Christians who are like, it's you can't pick up, war is immoral, and it's like, and you're supposed to love your enemy. It's like, okay, but if you're in Spain in 1936 and you see your neighbor or someone pulling a gun on your neighbor, does that mean, I allow my neighbor to become a martyr? I don't protect my neighbor. I don't protect my fellow Catholic. I mean, these people are fucking moronic, and they don't understand that. I mean, these people want you dead, Jared. These people want you dead. I love you, man. I've talked to them. We've, personally, face to face, love the guy, but I mean that take was just so from another generation that I just don't understand.
I mean, it's obvious because his organization is a 501c3, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah, they're not allowed to.
It's a little bit of 501c3 solidarity. Well, I may not agree with that. May not agree with that method, but wouldn't want them to not exist because then I couldn't exist. It's like, no, this is like we're going to skewer. We're going to kill each other with the same sword. That's where we're at now. It's like, I'm going to pull the dagger out of my chest and slice your throat open with it.
Don't you think it's really interesting that the evangelicals have because, and most of those evangelicals will tell you, you have to love your neighbor, you can't do this. They've sided with the one group that is willing to kill anyone, even themselves, even each other.
I don't understand this love your neighbor shit. Do you know what the evangelicals? I mean, I love them to death. But I'm like, there is love your neighbor, but there is also, by the very implication and language of the text you're citing, there is also the stranger.
Yeah, if every alien is a neighbor, then if everybody is your neighbor on Earth, then it literally means nothing.
It just turns into universalism, and universalism is not. Jesus in the Great Commission said, "Go forth to all nations." He didn't say, "Go forth to all nations and destroy them, and to make them one." Even in the Great Commission, he is God on earth is acknowledging that nations exist.
Well, I mean, without turning this into a theological debate, God
I can do that all night if you want to keep going. We can do
I mean, God was particularly not pleased when humanity tried to unify under a single nation and a single language. So, you know, I tend to take that as an endorsement of diverse nations that are a whole unto themselves. But either way, bringing it back to this ridiculous story, some billionaires have started peeing their pants and begging the California legislature not to do this thing. You know, it's one of those things. Women who voted for leopards eating people's faces party appalled when a leopard eats her face. You know, I mean, Sandy, we've talked about this before, but I really wish like our current crop of quote unquote elite are just like it is the most
There is no
perfect.
elite. You know, one of the Southern posters yesterday. She was like, "I want an elite that does this or whatever." And I was like, "We don't have an elite. We don't have one."
No, we've got the perfect Jewish inversion of an elite. We have the kakistocracy. I love that word.
I mean,
I love that phrase.
Like there's like somebody who's an elite. Stormy Waters is an elite. You know, at least it's like he's like what I think of as in like the mold of one. Unless you have people like that in charge of your country, you don't have an elite. What we have is a kakistocracy of dudes who, by trick of like women, and by trick of women who, I mean, men who, by virtue of their own timidity and the fact that they were too antisocial to do anything but learn Python in high school, you know, got fabulously wealthy, and now we're like stuck in their fucked up revenge narrative. It's not elite. It's not being rich doesn't make you elite. It's just that's the theory goes along that the money follows the eliteness, not that the money makes you elite. And
right.
I don't care how many Curtis Yarvin articles you read. The actual order is that it doesn't reverse, you know.
Right. In the proper ordering of the world, money follows power, not the other way around. And
Right.
we are in this this amazingly Jewish inversion world, where power follows money. And
where these women get to fucking scold you.
Right. And
and the one on the right calling that a woman that's a stretch.
Yeah, these puffy abuelas whose diets probably consist of pork rinds or whatever the Mexican equivalent is. Somehow I imagine it's actually they somehow inject more fried fats into it. But yeah, these puffy abuelas looking down their nose at you as if they know anything at all, much less know what's best for society. But on that happy note, we can go over to one that is actually a win. Although I'm not super familiar with this story, I don't. This one kind of blindsided me. I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention in the chat or what, but it looks like the Justice Department is looking at quote hundreds of citizens for a new push in denaturalization. Now, if we're being completely honest, hundreds is an insult. It is the definition of performative, action. It's fishing in the Rubicon. The proper number would be millions of citizens in new push.
Can I try this one?
Please.
Can I try this one? So I've come up with this theory, and I'm probably wrong because I normally am. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who's paying attention that the bus is barreling down the road and there's no driver. And we know for a fact that we have friends in the administration. We have friends on the Hill. We know this. Now, they get hamstrung. It seems like they've been hamstrung since this whole thing started, but we have friends. I'm wondering with some of the things that we've been seeing, whether some of our friends, because they know no one's, that, you know, the driver's asleep at the wheel, they may just be trying to do shit on their own and see what happens. Maybe throw some test cases out there. And I mean, this might be one of them. So that's my thinking. I know I brought that up last night or the night before, and you know, I don't think everyone agreed with me, but there's a chance that some of our guys may just be trying to do shit just because they know that pretty much no one's going to stop them because no one's in charge right now.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting theory, especially when you consider how the administrative state or the deep state, according to your taste, operates, where all of these bureaucrats are effectively allowed to operate under their own volition without having to really account for themselves. So if we actually have our guys staffing some of the areas of the administrative state that can do things like this, it's very possible that they're just acting under their own initiative. Now, that would actually account for why this might be hundreds of citizens rather than thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions that would actually be necessary. It's also one of those instances in which you can imagine momentum building off of this in your most optimistic dreams. So I think that there is definitely something to what you're saying, Pete, because we're seeing this all at the same time, but all small enough that it doesn't seem to be something that the administration's full weight is behind.
Right. And I don't want to I'm sorry, I'm not giving the administration credit for this because they're busy reopening something that was closed, but it was open to start with. And, you know, I think the biggest problem is that, okay, so if we do have guys out there who are trying to do stuff and they're just like doing little test runs, it's obviously too little too late. This needed to be done in February of last year, all of it. But, you know, one of the biggest problems they're going to have, and it is probably going to be the thing that spells their doom in the midterms, is that I don't think any of our guys are in a position to try to fix what's wrong economically. And, you know, if we could get 100 million people deported, sure, that would be a start. And that would definitely affect economics. But there's a lot that needs to be fixed economically. There's a lot that needs to be fixed as far as global trade goes. And yeah, I mean, that's not going to be something that you can hide and do. So these are nice. It's nice to see some of this stuff happening. It's nice to, see a win here and there. What happened in Louisiana is friggin' awesome. If this happened, this would be awesome. But, we know this has to be done at a grand scale, and it probably had to be done at the end of January, the beginning of February of last year.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good thing. I was talking to Paul about this, our very own Paul Fahrenheit. Paul likes political theory. I think he likes political theory a little too much. And I was explaining how, there comes a point, I had this moment. I had this moment too. Everyone has to have this moment where, I like political theory. I like coming up with systems that might work and so on and so forth. But there comes a point where you have to realize that shit ain't gonna happen, man. Like that's not where the locus of agency is at this point. The locus of agency at this point is who you know. And it's like, everybody talks about starting businesses. I don't even know that the locus is starting businesses there, because for all intents and purposes, it's what the U.S. government, what I call the Central Committee, has made it more or less illegal to start an actual business. You can be a peddler. You can, and I encourage anyone who thinks they can make that work to do it. Drop shipping things, turnover scams, the same thing everybody else in this Judaized economy works. But the idea of starting a business is probably not where agency lives right now, because you need to start a business. You need capital goods. What do you need to get capital goods? You need money. So what do you need? You need connection to the regime. You have to already be in that insider, like this. It's because of regulations and startup costs and everything like that. It's functionally illegal to just open a business right now. So where is your locus of agency? And it's you and who you know, and what can you get? What can you get? And this is, everybody always talks about, and I'm about to get spicy. Everybody talks about the right wing. The right wing. We got to keep the right wing together. The right wing fractured. Fuck that is like sort of my thought at this point. Most of the guys that I know and I'm interested in, they're right wingers, but the right in the abstract is nothing to me anymore. It's like, okay, there's people that I know, and then there's people that I know, and then that's about as far as I'm concerned of anything at this point. Like I really start to see the conditions of modernity where abstractly identifying with other people based on shared beliefs. I'm not sure I'm really about that anymore. The locus of agency is you and who you know, and what can you do for yourselves,
Yeah, and that's perfect encapsulation of why we're all here. We see the writing on the wall. It's kind
I
of
was doing copy for the club. That was my advertisement.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It's yes, and the system is illegitimate, and so we have to build our own legitimate system, and that requires getting together, pressing flesh, and calling each other faggots every once in a while.
It requires getting the fuck off of Twitter.
Now that's a fact. For anybody of my meager followership who is wondering why my account no longer appears, because I deleted my Twitter. It's just not necessary for us anymore. We've got enough people in the real world that the online space. All right, I'm going to go on a tangent here. There's this wonderful tabletop RPG called Shadowrun. It is a kind of blend of cyberpunk meets fantasy. It's high magic, that sort of thing. But in this world, the first iteration of the internet is actually cordoned off because an AI was let loose on it, and it started wreaking havoc over the world. So they just locked it down. And, they eventually started Internet 2.0 years later. But I'm fairly certain that's about where we are in Internet 1.0. It's all algorithmic slop. It's people getting pushed into information silos where they're spun around and worked up, and it's just not worth any of our time. Twitter was a platform that needed to be taken over, and it served its purpose in the 2024 election cycle, and now it's dead.
Yeah, it seems pretty dead to me. I mean, I'm still there. I'm like, no offense to y'all, but I'm making money. So like, I'm still until I decide that the juice ain't worth the squeeze anymore, I'll be here. But here's the thing, though. Okay, so the current version of the internet, who's building the next version? Who's building the internet 2.0? Somebody's gonna have to do that.
Now that's a fact, and it's also something we're thinking about. if the internet becomes something where small groups are clustering,
you're essentially gonna have to build your own. I mean, that's the if you follow my Substack, the stuff on ontology that I've been doing, I mean, this is a kind of a specialty of mine. You know, I do it for money. But you're going to the internet by itself. The internet is a giant abstraction. It's how things find one another on the internet is the real key. And constellation internets. It's going to be you're going to have to build your own networks. And there's not going to be anybody. There's not going to be Jeff Bezos or the age of millennial altruism is over. You know, we built all the apps and look what we got out of it. You know, nobody's going to do it. Nobody's really looking to do that again in a massively public way. So if you want anything like that, you're going to have to build it yourself.
Yeah, and to this end, not all of us have the resources to be able to lay transcontinental fiber lines, but fiber line piracy is possible. Just keep in mind that when you're splicing into a fiber line, to wear very heavy gloves, because those little bits of fiber can break off into your body, and they will migrate to your heart and eventually kill you. So,
or we should say, make sure when you're not doing this that you wear gloves.
Exactly. When you're not doing this highly illegal and retarded thing, that you're wearing adequate protection. Otherwise, you will find yourself dying a very painful death.
It's like that Jew. It's like a Jew I got dinner with, where he kept referring to the tragic death of every single Palestinian over and over again. And I'm like, there's still plenty of Palestinians alive. And he was like, yeah, the tragic death of every Palestinian. And I was like, oh.
Man, Sandy, you have the wildest stories, my dude, and I don't know how you interface so frequently with just open evil and still maintain.
I don't either. You know, there's a lot of women that have theories about that.
Like, yes, I imagine that women have a lot of theories about a lot of things, but given their intuitive nature, maybe there's some unintentional wisdom echoing. And
no, the overlap is that they all notice that I regularly tend to have encounters beyond what anyone would consider bizarre, and you know.
I mean, that sounds like a great life as long as you maintain your.
No, I'm sick of it. I'm tired. I want off the carousel.
You hear that, gentle viewer? By contributing to the OGC monetarily, you're helping to speed our good friend Sandbatch's escape from the wild and wacky world he has built for himself.
You know, my favorite movie is The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. I don't know if you know the story. I feel like the guy in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
I've not seen it, but now I have to watch it. So that's a nice.
Oh my God, absolutely! No, you in particular will enjoy it. Like you will enjoy this one.
Is this one to watch solo, or should I bring the lady in on it?
No, she'll love it too. It's great. It's great.
Great. I'll write that one down. We've got one more story for y'all. Now, I have always been I won't call myself a car guy, because I find it incredibly boring when I have to listen to other people talk about cars. But I have always been a gearhead in that I turn the wrenches and I do the work on my own vehicles myself. So I have a rule that I don't buy any cars that are newer than 2010. Because I don't need proprietary software to lock me out of doing the work myself.
Right.
But now we have some wonderful new, I say new legislation when really this is part of the 2021, so Biden era, U.S. Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Specifically, this is Section 24,220, the Halt Drunk Driving Act. Or as they euphemistically call it, the Advanced Impairment Driving Prevention Technology Requirement Act, in which, starting in 2027, all vehicles will have onboard AI and cameras pointed at the driver to measure such things as pupil dilation, reaction time, and I guess general vasodilation to determine whether or not your car is allowed to start. Now, this is ostensibly to control for drunk driving, but and I don't think the producer has any of these, but Ford has very recently published or filed for a multitude of patents that include things like biometric reading, cameras that use AI to read the lips of not only the driver but also every passenger in the vehicle, and tailor the onboard, because why wouldn't they be on board, screens to show ads based on what you're talking about. So this is another step towards the panopticon that, you know,
I mean, really, you know what that actually tells you? It's not a step towards the panopticon. The panopticon exists. This is the panopticon monetizing itself, which is somehow just even more insulting.
Yeah, it's way gayer. It's way more Jewish.
Yeah, it's like it's like you like you know it's like I asked for, you know, I asked for the Baron Harkonnen and all I got was Geo. You know,
I mean, and,
oh, that is so harsh. Okay,
and
all
let's remember that this is going to get a majority of the GOP.
Yeah, they're gonna love that shit. Because you know who else? You know who else? You know who's gonna be real up in the implementation there? It's Palantir. And this is exactly what Palantir does. What you like, how you feel about Palantir? And I've been writing a lot of scare pieces about Palantir. I know Palantir very well because I'm in the unaffiliated pool of, you know, people who do the same sorts of things that Palantir does. And so I've got a pretty good idea of what their capabilities are and exactly what it is they do. And this is exactly the kind of service they provide, which is the data infrastructure around that sort of surveillance, because they have incredible security. And it's like I never tire of pointing out, Palantir just got $225 million from the federal government to build a product that will use what we call tapestry analysis. I don't know if you're familiar. If you really want to see, you can head on over to tapestry.com and see what kind of data has been collected on you and remonetized and sold back to companies that need things like, you know, a particular psychological profiles, like cell phone location at any given time. You've given that away more times than you think you have. And they're going to use tapestry analysis as well as photographs like Google Maps and that sort of thing to take the outward appearance of a structure, or the outward appearance of a street, and determine the probability of an illegal immigrant living there. Now that's kind of based when you think about it, if at least somebody goes and kicks the illegal immigrant out later. But when you think about where the funding came from Medicaid. You know, this is same kind of thing going on here. It's like, what are the possible medical applications of this technology that are even more frightening somehow? That's the world that we live in. And again, I return to the idea, this is my real shit now. You know, like, I mean, I guess I'm a poet, I'm a, you know, whatever else. I've gotten, except for the fact that I'm unmarried and somewhat impoverished, I've gotten nearly everything I could have wanted politically. And the issues that I'm interested in are the interesting thing that's most interesting to me is, how do we build what comes next? What is the next phase of the internet? What's it going to look like? And this whole concept of data security, human security, these are going to become increasingly existential as we move forward over the course of this year, especially next year, and especially through the 2028 election. So you got to be really careful about, you know, what data is out there, where you're clicking. You might be right to just delete your Twitter. You really might be.
I mean, for reasons that I wouldn't attribute to my own wisdom on this thing, I hope that you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting about this is knowing how, you know, cars function on I mean, I guess a rudimentary level or a level that allows me to work on them.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how the consumer pushback, the consumer piracy is going to be working on this, because for every new feature like the automatic start stop, or there are some vehicles that will automatically turn off, say you have a 6-cylinder, it will turn off 2 cylinders when it doesn't think that you need them. There are always people who are engineering these interventions that can circumvent these new things, because while the vehicle and Tesla is kind of known for this, while the vehicle is constantly in contact with its mothership via GPS and other wireless transmission devices, there is always going to be a way to spoof the signal. And while I'm not going to be participating in circumventing this newfangled technology because I'm old now, there are going to be people who produce devices, modules that you can splice into your vehicle that get around this sort of thing. And I'm very interested to see how the white man can push back against this kind of thing in kind of unique and innovative ways that the average slave won't be interested in.
The good thing is we got the best team.
Yeah, amen to that. But this is what's interesting. Putting on or gazing into my crystal ball here, what I see for the future is I don't know if this is going to be in our lifetime, though it wouldn't surprise me in the least if we get legislation that outlaws manually driven cars, and that if you own a vehicle, it has to be self-driving. Now, at that point, it becomes an issue of pure enforcement, which I just don't think it's going to be possible, especially as the federal government continues to lose legitimacy and its ability to project power. But this for me, this is a very interesting story because, like you said, Sandy, this is the panopticon monetizing. It's also the panopticon eking its way into a culture that is uniquely and historically American. Car culture, though it has taken off in Europe and around the world, is specifically American. The automobile,
and it's an attack on whites. I mean, with Ford, I mean, who buys Ford trucks? I mean, this is just an attack on the white man. That's it. There'll probably be some kind of AI workaround so that Jeets can drive no matter what kind of condition they're in. And yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, I mean, there's actually something to this, right? Like we lost somebody. I don't know who, but I'm going to keep talking anyway. It is an attack on the white man because the reason that our leaders seem so hell bent on eliminating the white race is because really of all the races, ours is the only one who seems to care about things like individual autonomy and freedom. When you're talking about a civilization, when you're talking about put yourself in the shoes of those who rule over the globalist system. If you want a pliant and compliant populace, you don't want white people. You want the global south. You want the third world. You want the people who look into the dirt and don't look into the sky, who don't build great edifices, who don't see every horizon as a challenge. So yes, Pete. I mean, I know I'm kind of sucking the wind out of this, but I think that's exactly what it is. An attack on whites.
I am never getting rid of my OBD1 truck. That's for damn sure.
Based. So that wraps up our official stories. I was saying this was more of a white pill stream, but it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, I don't know, Sandy, you got anything else you want to throw at this story?
Well, no. This is a
Yeah, it's I mean, what else can you do, right? Again, I encourage anybody listening, don't buy anything newer than 2010. Not just because the CIA has had devices as early that we knew about as 2014, where they can remotely cause your vehicle that is controlled by electronic fuel injection to accelerate out of control with a press of a button, but also because, let's be honest, nobody wants to spend money for proprietary software in order to, balance this or regulate that within their vehicle.
But I mean,
Mechanical.
I think the one thing that I do think is wonderful, the world of proprietary software seems to be going away. Well, no, it's probably not going away, but it's changing rapidly enough where, like, I mean, we're moving towards a world where, God, this one last thing, AI. We could do a little bit of AI. Anthropic and Lighthouse are back at one another's throats, because Anthropic has suggested expanding access to their Mythos model, which is the big scary model that you could use to launch really serious cyber attacks. And the White House is pushing back, saying that you shouldn't expand access to this, and the compute's so heavy that it'll impede our. It's very clear at this point that the Mythos model is actually the one that was the source of the last controversy, and the government was using an early version of it. But we're in what my favorite historian Reinhard Koschlik would call a Sattelzeit right now, which is, of course, it means a saddle time, where, and this is, I know people don't like that I do this, but I would encourage everyone to get a subscription or get a setup going, and you should learn how to use AI, because we're in an interesting saddle period right now where the large AI companies are still subsidizing relatively cheap use, and that's going to come to an end relatively soon here, because it's becoming apparent that these tools are so powerful that we're going to start seeing serious restrictions on like private citizens' ability to access them. So building proficiency now is something that everyone should be doing.
Yeah, I can sign on to this. I mean, Sandy, you bringing up proprietary software going away got me thinking a little bit. And I think that the powers that be, being as short-sighted as they are, they made the mistake of giving the populace access to the internet and what is largely the free exchange of information, which has woken us up to us, the general populace, the normie, up to many things that they wouldn't have known in the controlled ecosystem that existed before open access to the internet. And in the same way, they're making a big mistake by allowing the population access to artificial intelligence, because for whatever proprietary software that exists, there exists already humans who can crack it and who can spoof it and who can make it so that you don't have to spend the thousands of dollars a year on a license. I mean, even if we're sticking within the realm of cars, to work on your own vehicle. With AI, it produces this. I mean, the arms race continues. It's just elevated, and
I can offer specifics. I think everyone who's interested. I'm sure, I don't know Exit Group very well, but I'm sure they have people working on this. I'm sure a lot of the more forward-thinking groups they're probably building communal AI tool sets, and that would be like communally interoperable AI tool sets that severely reduce compute usage. I think is a thing that serious organizations need to be looking at doing. So that's my bit of free advice for the night. Y'all should go buy my book.
Yeah, I mean, I could sign on to that too. I mean, this is advice often offered cost-free to you, dear listener. Most good life advice comes at a dear cost, and you've been able to avoid that by tuning in to Pony Express Radio, episode 122, License to Kill. All right, let's saunter on over to the super chats, and then we can get out of here.
Le chat super.
Say again.
I said le chat super.
No, le chat super. I don't know what that translates to.
It doesn't. It's just slop.
Oh yes, the slop. Oh, superb. Yes, yeah. Of course. The greatest of all slop shows. Solid Sake, 1964 for $10 coming in under the not under the wire, over the wire. He's the first over the trench. Evening, gents. Seeing the photo of the failed assassin, I would find it hard to believe if he didn't get some of his silly gear recommendations from Reddit. The guy looks like a total Redditard. Unfortunately, this type of behavior won't be punished by the admin like we want. Stay frosty, and he sends us a salute like a real American.
Real Americans.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Solid Snake.
Of course he's a Redditard. Like, of course he's a Redditard.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he's a teacher in the American education system. He is required by law to be on the elegant Air Force Base propaganda outlet that is Reddit.com. Also, Dudley Newright made an amazing observation. In one of his pictures, he's wearing a black shirt on red tie, which is the sinister dork outfit. It's the sinister dork uniform. So 100% Reddit. Reeks the whole way down. Xcomer for $25. Supreme Court ended race-based redistricting of the Civil Rights Act in 1965. This could be the best ruling to help save our country. Well, we already addressed that at length. I hope that it has an outsized influence in reducing the amount of representation of the touched races over our great.
But you know, I'm not even really concerned about it in racial terms. I'm just like, over the course of today, dipping into local New Orleans Twitter to check on the discourse, I have been horrified at the indignity and the ignorant squalor in which the average American lives their day-to-day lives, and expecting proportional representation from them it's embarrassing to all of us.
Of course, and that's one of those things that's best not to look into. It's quite like what do they say in Chicago? If you want to maintain your appetite for sausages and your respect for city aldermen, you'd best be absent when the former is being made and the latter is being groomed. You don't want to know what the normie is like, not just because it is depressing, but because you run the risk of becoming extremely prideful. Because if you're listening to this show, you're already a little bit above the grade. All right, Ski Bum 220 for $30. I like this. Every super chat is more than the one before it. I hope this trend continues. Stormy Waters said on the most recent Inquisition podcast that the Trump administration has passed the credibility event horizon, where no matter what they do or say, they get weaker and weaker, and fewer people believe what they say. And he asks for thoughts from the panel. And Pete, can you take this one first?
Sure. I think we're at the point where there's only a very small group of people who are hanging around waiting to see what Trump is going to do. Remember that the first time he was elected and the second time he was elected, it was enough people said it's not about Trump the man. It's about the fact that the populace would break for someone like him, someone who wasn't a Romney, someone who wasn't a Clinton, someone who wasn't a Bush. There's just, I don't see how he can come back now, even if he wanted to, and be like, okay, now we're doing mass deportations. And it's like, well, you have the elections coming up. And then if they lose the elections as badly as a lot of people think, is, people who aren't completely siloed into little group think tanks that you're going to have 2 years of in and out of court. Some people will be like, well, no, he's doing the bidding of the Jews. They're not going to allow him to be. When you make a deal with the devil reneges. Okay. This is it. We just have a lame duck president at this point. We just have to accept that.
No, I mean, he's not quite there yet, but I mean, he's going there. I mean, this is like, no matter what you think about presidents, last 2 years of the second term, there's not a whole lot going on there, especially when this is the drawdown of an entire era in American politics. My guess is that you're going to see the kinetic energy level start to drop precipitously over the course of the next 2 years. Now, Stormy, of course, is somebody that I don't listen because I don't listen to shows, but I talk to Stormy quite a bit, and he's I don't think I've ever heard him say anything I disagree with.
Yeah, I mean, I can sign on to what you guys are saying. There is a way for Trump to take his legitimacy and back, but he's just not going to do that. It would be too much to ask of an old man who at this point thinks that, I mean, if he believed that his legacy would be cemented launching these retarded strikes against Iran, and it's very possible that all sorts of things are going on with blackmail and threats and all this kind of stuff from our greatest ally. But either way, I think the Trump administration has given us what we're going to get out of it, and I would be very surprised to see anything otherwise. So thank you again.
Yeah. There's also a lot of personal enrichment that is happening with him and his family, and I think a bunch of us said in a private chat that we'd have no problem with that. Write him a blank fucking check, but give us 100 million deportations.
Yeah, I mean, the other things. I'm just always. Because I'm 36. I've been around this shit for a long time. I'm just this way. I'm always trying to drag people's attention away from politics, away from the algorithm, except for people, except for idiots who, you just Twitter brain and you want to throw your advertising dollars at me. But I'm so black-pilled on the entire modality of communication, the political communications that have existed for the last 20 years or so. Even to the point where I was like, it's Age of Aquarius stuff, the communication infrastructure is being rebuilt. You have to look somewhere other than politics to find the spaces where agency can be exercised. You always have to be looking at something other than politics.
Yeah,
and you don't want to be the politician. You want to be the person who moves the politician.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most important thing. That's what people who are trying to infiltrate, the regime don't get. Yeah, I mean, no. We want to be the ones who make them work for us. And what does that take? Well, that's not getting a job in the government, and it's definitely not posting on Twitter.
Amen. Chansey, keeping the trend for $50. If we still had gold to give out, you'd be getting one, my sir. It is great to have a group of organized and motivated men who can do things in our own community, feeling pretty good about the future of the OGC. Well, thank you, sir. I am as well.
But I think those things, like I said, there's all everybody's always bitching. It goes on inside any organization. As somebody who's been member of a lot of organizations, bitching is just one of the things that happens. But I think it's really powerful that groups actually holding together, gelling, doing really well. And it's like I said, that the drug wore off. The drug is wearing off. The drug is like, yeah, let's go hang out with my friends. And then there's the realization that shit, well, this is my Anglo-Saxon war band. You know?
Yeah, it's time to suit up and work. All right. Chansey, once again, for $10. Also, the recent episode of the Ken Burns Revolution slop went on and on about the Major General Green, but glossed over the achievements of Captain Hale. I feel personally slighted. Sandy, can you take us away on this?
Well, I mean, I don't really have just a whole lot going on. I haven't been watching the series because I mean, I don't have a television, but it sounds like a bunch of Yankee shit. I mean, I like that Nathaniel Green, of course, he's the the general that was in charge of the Southern Theater during the war. So I'm assuming this is increased focus on the Southern Theater in Ken Burns' documentary, which I approve of, and I'm sorry you Yankees feel underrepresented.
Well, our constituency unfortunately spread out and took over every urban center in the United States. So we're overrepresented, but I catch your meaning. No, I'm not Grim from Red Hood for $1.99. Smash Brothers players are not beating the allegations. I'm sure this was very apropos to whatever we were discussing when this was sent, but I haven't the foggiest idea of what he is referring to.
Thanks for the $2.
Yes, thank you, sir or madam. Seasider for $10 with his signature salute.
Real Americans.
There we go. Melon for $10. And here we go. This is a good one. What is Sandbatch's opinion of internal migration from the North? What's causing it? How the locals will react in the future? How it will change the situation in the South, etc. Also, don't move south, Yankees. Stay where your grandparents are buried. We need you here anyway.
Well, this is the thing on which of all of the things that I've been right about, this is the thing that I've been the most right about, which was the inexorable march of the economic pole of the country to the South. And I mean, I've been in the Southern game. There's the Southern game. That's how I got in this game. It was, I was. Now that the SPLC is totally fucking gone, well, they're not gone, but now they're not a factor anymore. I was at one point labeled the most dangerous Southern extremist in 3 different states that I didn't live in. So that's really what my background is. And I was at the time I was essentially exactly the same person I am now. SPLC is just insane, but this is a true thing. This is a thing that's happening. There's no way. There's no way around it. I don't even have a way to tell, especially friendly people in the North, not to move here. I have a lot of friends out in California. I would like to move to California. I'm trying to move to California, but I have a lot of friends out in California that are, they're always like, they're like, man, I would really like, we just can't stand this anymore. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I would move to Tennessee then. Because Tennessee is the place that probably the best place for like sort of right wingers that are fleeing some fucking blue hell to move right now. It's like beginners level Southern state. You don't have to deal with people like me, for instance. But the the thing that's causing it is the essential failure, and historically, what's causing it is that the South was so poor from 1877 to 1932 and then we got some major federal investment during World War II, and something called the bulldozer revolution happened. But because of all of the federal oversight and because of the stigma of the South and because of the immense poverty that resulted from losing the Civil War, it was essentially the destruction of an entire civilization and the re-erection of another in its place. And the one that was re-erected in its place was systemically impoverished. It was spiritually servile. It was a lot of things that prevented it from modernizing in the 1930s. And then what happened when, what's happened in the last decade or so is that all of that infrastructure that was decayed, all of that infrastructure was built in the North and the Rust Belt and places of what we now know as the Rust Belt and places like that. That infrastructure is now decaying, but the South never built any of that infrastructure. So now suddenly the South, by virtue of not having all of this derelict infrastructure, all of this derelict state building detritus, didn't have any of it. So we look like a blank slate. There's not really any way to do this. And I was actually talking about this earlier on the timeline today with respect to the statues and that sort of thing. And so I wouldn't have taken the statues down. And of course, I mean, I'm not pro taking statues down or anything like that, but I have been excited. I was talking to Cal Crucis about this, and I've been excited in the last 3 years to see the South come alive again in a way that I have never seen it in my lifetime. And I'm an honest enough Southern extremist to be happy that the reawakening of the South didn't look exactly how I thought it was going to look, because if it looked exactly how I thought it was going to look, it would have looked like something out of a history book, which is something that's not really alive. I think that Southerners are going to have to. I honestly believe that if there's a redemptive path for the United States, it has to be a Southern path. And I think that, in the same way that the opening of China fundamentally changed the way China had to look at the world, that the migrations into the American South are also going to fundamentally change our relationship with ourselves. And what that looks like, I don't know, but I'm really excited. I'm really excited about it. But yeah, I mean, it's always better to have, to have Yankees stay where you are. But I mean, if the conditions just become absolutely intolerable and you got to pull the ripcord, do it.
Well, I always appreciate a little look into the Sandbatch mind when it comes to the future of the South, because I have absolutely no idea what's going on down there.
And oh man, I mean, it's my thing. I'm the guy there,
And God bless you for that. Thrasher Thetic for $5 says, just some money for the boys. Keep up the good work. The slop must flow. Well, thank you, Thrasher. We always appreciate some more coins in the trough. And you being here beside us is always important too. Bolero 393 for $2. He is responding to Adam Keeney 398, and he says, in quotes, "Do we?" Now, again, I'm sure this was very apropos at the moment he said it, but for now, it will be a mystery because I ain't scrolling through that chat to figure out what's going on.
Thank you again for the $2.
David on the Bayou for $25 dues. Salute from Beauregard's Bayou crew of Louisiana. Patriots,
Salute.
Find your chapter. You can just do things.
It's a message to me. It's a message to me.
Of course.
I lost two of them, and I lost two of them on Bourbon Street last week, and they're begging me to go find this. Find your chapter. Find your chapter. Like I don't know where he went.
Come home, Sandbatch. Come home. Melon for another $3 dues. Internet 2.0 will be a mesh-tastic reticulum type Bluetooth stuff that connects to your local area, in my opinion. Some sort of radio internet where white guys own the hardware. So this is kind of the
I think that's right.
PAN, the personal area network.
Yeah. I mean, I essentially believe that with I'm real into this ontology thing. I think this ontology thing is important, but I think what Melon is talking about here, that combined with the ontology concept, is exactly where we're going.
Well, that would be an interesting look into the future, and one that could actually serve us quite well. I just hope that it's not being serviced on the Bluetooth platform, because that is a garbage protocol. Monayud Sushai 1 for $4.99. And he quotes, "The concept of progress acts as a protective mechanism to shield us from the terrors of the future," from Frank Herbert in Dune. Now, I have read Dune, and it is a wonderful book, but I do not remember this particular quote, and I'm not sure that I agree with Mr. Herbert in this formulation. If only because I see the concept of progress is not something that shields us from the terrors of the future, but one that denies the terrors of the future and tries to socially engineer an imagined future.
Well, that's what protective mechanism. It's a mechanism. It doesn't mean it works. Like this is one
so it could be a mental
concept
model
of progress rather than progress itself. So it's a fiction. It's a fiction acting as another fiction to verb us from the noun.
Very Baudrillardian. I'm sure that our Uncle Ted would appreciate that as well. And to round out the evening, no, I'm not Grim from Red Hood for another $1.99. That 1 cent is what kills you, man. You think that you think that our friends in the Hasidim would allow that 1 cent to lie on the sidewalk? No.
Yeah.
No, they would not. So he is referring to the would-be assassin who did the big Who Cares over the weekend. The assassin was a Smash Brothers.
Who Cares?
The big Who Cares. The assassin was a Smash Brothers tournament player. Yeah, I mean that's one needs to ask, and I assume that this is the case. Was he a Melee player? Did he play Marth? Was he the gayest man alive? All of these things, I think, are probably yes.
You were born gay. Enjoy it.
Come now, Mr. Carlson. We all know nobody is born gay. And coming in under the wire, unlike Mr. Solid Snake, who was over the wire earlier, for $4.99, again, leaving the Hasidim shaking. "I'm from Rhodesia," said Leonardo DiCaprio. "We call it Zimbabwe now," said Jennifer Connelly. "Do we?" asked Leonardo DiCaprio.
Dude, I happened to watch that movie I watched that movie for the first time back in like the Coney 2012 days. And like 2 nights ago, I watched it again. And that scene that just got quoted there is like maybe the most sexual scene I have ever seen in a film.
Well, Jennifer Connelly is very good at giving the eyes. So
yeah. I mean, they were both incredible in that one. It's perfect. Everything about it is perfect.
All right, now I'm gonna wrap up here. I am drinking straight liquor, so I'm gonna sit down and watch that movie. What's the name of that movie again?
Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
What?
Spy Who Came In.
All right.
Blood Diamond. Blood Diamond is the one the scene is from.
Okay, Blood Diamond. All right, I'll watch Blood Diamond again and save Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which I have written down for when my beautiful wife is returned from her 24-hour shift of cutting minorities open on the surgery table.
Returned from winning the family bread.
Exactly. I am the house husband. Oh, one more before we close out for the evening. Volpes Persona for $10, like a real American, sends us a salute.
Salute, real Americans.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Quinones, please shill for us.
Go to Rumble, go to Odyssey on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock and hear episode number 126, the final episode reading of 200 Years Together by Alexander Solzhenitsyn with Dr. Matthew Raphael Johnson.
You're 74 episodes short, Pete. I am so I'm so sad.
I wanted it to be 100 and I wanted it to be 109. But
Yeah, it's funny.
But no, check out one of my favorite things about Pete's channel on Rumble is apparently they don't give a shit about copyright. So he's always putting up bangers at the beginning of his Sunday streams. So do check those out, if only to expand your musical taste, dear listener. Because
this week it was White. This week it was White Zombie.
Yeah, if you don't understand that the 80s was the last gasp of American music, I don't know. Sandy,
I'm an early 2000s man. You know, you all could, you know.
Listen, my friend, I love late 90s trip hop. And it's just gonna, it's the sneaker pimps and fucking Portishead and all that kind of nonsense.
Oh man. So okay, yeah. You all, I would love if you all would go head over, sign up for my Substack, which I stopped shilling for a while because I stopped using it for a while. But I'm actually putting up what I think is really high quality content on the Substack right now. And then also, yeah, like I said, to get in under the wire on my royalty check, because I live on this shit, man, and I got a lot of expenses coming up, so it would make me feel great if you want. And people seem to love the book. I gave out 2 copies today because I get author copies. I gave out 2 books to 22-year-old white girls today, and in return, I got two manuscripts, 2 phone numbers. The phone numbers are 3 digits apart. Phone numbers are 3 digits apart, and they're both manuscripts are both the same concept. So we are over the target and bombing with respect to the book, but I think you all will enjoy it as well. And it's quite, because I finally have a copy of it. It's quite pretty. It's good. It's good coffee table book material as well.
Or Toilet Tank, as I need something to replace Horizons of Iron, which is an inferior book of poetry. But I absolutely endorse Sandy's Substack. It has happened before where I send him a text saying, "Man, your most recent Substack was really fucking good," and he insults my intelligence by telling me that he put it out while he was taking a dump earlier in the day. So
no, it was the one I did for the one I did for the OGC Substack. Well, it's basically Scott Greer got so fucking mad, which like made me happier than anything else could. Like Scott Greer's those people that, like, if Scott Greer goes to bed pissed off, I'm a happy man. But I wrote that sumbitch while I was sitting at a Mardi Gras ball. I was just bored waiting on my date to get back from the bar, and I was like, I was drunk. I was like, can I write a Substack article for OGC while I'm drunk? And lo and behold, I can.
it's a beautiful thing. Let no man say that we don't have the greatest talent in America in the Old Glory Club. I don't have anything to shill. I haven't been putting out anything other than the Chapter House, which you should all tune into every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, the only time zone that matters, just to get an idea of what your brothers are doing in the Old Glory.
Who's coming up next?
Who's up next?
Yeah.
The Nathan Hale Society of New York City.
I thought you just did the Louisiana chapter. Was that 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago was Baudrillard's was it was the Bayou Crew of Louisiana, and last week was Nebraska's Stephen Steele Society. Well, I should say last week, this week. Next week, we've got Nathan Hale, and the week after that, we have the Iowa chapter, whose name I cannot remember, the Iowa Dragoon Society.
The Iowa Cornhuskers.
Be sure to check into that, because they're going to prove me wrong in my belief that Iowa does not actually exist.
I was gonna say, I was like, I know Iowa, I know, and I you know, I hate to say this to I shit on Iowa and Ohio all the time, but it's a toss up between Iowa and Ohio. Columbus,
Is
Ohio,
that just
and
because they start with vowels?
I don't know, but it's a toss up between Columbus, Ohio, and Waterloo, Iowa for worst places I've ever been. So if you're in either of those places, I'm sorry. But for me, the state that I'm not definitely certain exists is Delaware. I don't know. You can't tell me Delaware is real. I mean, you can tell me. But I don't
Well,
really
I mean, check the backlog, my friend. Chapter House has had our Delaware chapter on.
Can you prove that they were in Delaware at the time?
They claimed. I had no way of verifying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know.
All right. So besides that, check out American Spirits every Monday, 8 p.m. in the only time zone that matters. And check out the best in slop radio, the bullshit that just doesn't matter, every Thursday, 8 p.m. For the Old Glory Club, I am Not Me, Not You. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
When I pass on my good genes to my sons, they're going to join the Old Glory Club.